Welcome to this class on the future perfect continuous tense. This is one of the most advanced tenses in the English language. So first of all, congratulations on reaching this level where you're watching this lesson. It's quite amazing. Feel good. Now, this class is part of a series on English tenses that's created for you by engVid. But what is the future perfect continuous tense anyway? First of all, it's also called the future perfect progressive tense. But what is it? When do we use it? How do we use it? Why do we need to say, by that time I will have been working? Would you like to find out? Let's get started. So, first of all, we know from the name itself that this tense has something to do with the future, and it has something to do with something continuing, right? Future and continuing. Let's understand what we mean by that. So we use this tense to say that something, an action, will have been going on for a certain period of time. We want to say how long something will have been going on at a particular time in the future or before a particular event in the future. Got that? I'll say it again. We want to understand how long something will have been going on before a particular time or event in the future. All right? Let's look at an example so you can understand more clearly. So, this is our timeline. This is now, okay, the present. That side is the future, and this side is the past. So let's say that I'm imagining I'm here now, right? It's July. Let's say it's July. And I'm imagining what my life will be like next year in July. So I could use this tense to say something like this. By next July, let's suppose you started working here, okay, in July. So we could say, by next July, I will have been working here for 1 year. All right? You started your job in this July, and we're talking about what it will be like next July. And you could say, by next July, I will have been working here for 1 year. Okay? That's if you started the job now. But let's suppose you started the job 10 years ago in July. All right? You could still say, by next July, I will have been working here for how many years? 10 plus 1 for 11 years. By next July, I will have been working here for 11 years. So we're kind of thinking about the future and saying what will have been continuing at that point in the future, okay? You will understand more as we look at more examples and we work through it, okay? Now, what's the difference, though, between saying a sentence in the future perfect continuous tense, which is what we're learning here, and the future perfect tense, which you might have learned just before this? Well, let's look. This one, of course, says, by next July, I will have been working here. Will have been working. That's future perfect continuous. I will have been working here for 1 year. But in future perfect, we would have said, by next July, I will have worked here for 1 year. So what's the difference? Is there a difference? They are similar, but there is a difference. Okay? When I say by next July, I will have worked here for 1 year, it's just kind of a fact. It's just the way it is. But when I say by next July, I will have been working here for 1 year, the stress, the emphasis is on how long that is, how the duration of it, and that it's kind of like it continues. The stress is on the continuation of it and not just that it will have happened. Okay? So that's a little bit of the difference, but again, we'll understand more as we go along. Basically, how do we construct this tense? Pretty simple. We just take the subject, I, you, we, they, he, she, or it. Then we have to add these three helping verbs, will, have, been. And then we take the verb, work, plus ing. Now, you wouldn't just say, I will have been working. It's part of a full sentence, okay? By next July, by midnight. Let's suppose you started working at 6 o'clock in the morning. And now it's 6 o'clock in the evening. How many hours have you worked? 12. But let's suppose you are supposed to work till midnight. So you could say at 6 o'clock in the evening, by midnight, I will have been working for 18 hours. Wow, I'm going to be exhausted. So in that case, you can understand why the person is using that, because they want to show that it really lasts for a long time and it continues for a long time. Okay? That's the basics of this tense. Now let's look at when we can and cannot use this tense. So, we can use the future perfect continuous to talk about how long something will have been going on at a specific time in the future. That's one way. What do I mean? Let's look at an example. Next November, right? That's a specific time in the future. Next November, we will have been living in this house for 15 years. So let's suppose somebody asks you, how long have you been living here? And you say, you know what? By next November, we will have been living here for 15 years. And we still love it here. We love this house. We love this area. We love this neighborhood. We're very happy. Okay? So, where's the future perfect continuous? Here. Will have been living. All right? But at a specific time in the future. It will be that way. Okay? Now, we can also use it before another action in the future. For example, by the time the guests arrive, this is the action here. By the time the guests arrive, this is an action in the future. I will have been cooking all day, so I will be exhausted. What does it mean to be exhausted? Very tired. All right? So, this is a specific action in the future. By that time, when the guests arrive, and here we have our future perfect, will have been cooking, right? I will have been cooking and cooking and cooking and cooking. The continuity is emphasized by using this tense. How long something happens is emphasized, okay, by using this tense. All right? Next, we also use this tense with certain common expressions. All right? For example, why do we need these expressions? Because we have to put it into some kind of context, right? So we'd probably say something like this. By this Saturday, by next month, by next week, right? Or without the word by. You could just say this week or next summer, next winter, okay? It's a time in the future. Or you could say a year, by 2025. And very often you will see the word for, right? So you saw it here, for 15 years, because you're trying to say how long something will have been going on, okay? So for plus the period of time, 4 or 5 years, 5 months, 4 or 5 winters, okay? Anything. You could say anything with for as long as it's a period of time, all right? And when can we not use this tense? Like all continuous tenses in English, including this one, we cannot use it with many stative verbs, okay? We cannot use it with many stative verbs. So, what are stative verbs? Remember, there are two basic kinds of verbs in English, the dynamic or action verbs and the stative verbs. And action verbs are like run, work, play, okay? And stative verbs describe some kind of state or condition. It could be mental, it could be emotional, or it could be something else, okay? If you check any grammar book, you will see a long list of stative verbs. For example, some mental stative verbs which we cannot use with this tense: know, believe, realize. Some emotional kind of verbs: love, hate, prefer. Or some verbs that talk about some kind of ownership, okay, something you possess or possession. Own, belong, all right? And there are many more, and some are sometimes allowed and sometimes not allowed. So you have to pay attention to that. But in general, a good rule to remember is that many stative verbs cannot be used with this continuous tense or with any continuous tense. Now let's look at how we form the future perfect continuous tense. Let's start with the positive sentence first, then we'll look at the negative sentence and the question. So for a positive sentence, your basic structure is like this. You take the subject plus will have been plus a verb plus ing. Let's look at an example. So these are the subjects, and the subject could be any other word as well. I, you, we, they, he, she, it. Okay? So what would we say? I will have been flying. So let's take an example. Let's say I'm flying to Tokyo, and I'm thinking ahead, and I say, by the time I arrive in Tokyo, I will have been flying for 12 hours. Okay? Or you will have been flying. Say it after me just so that you get used to this. We will have been flying. They will have been flying. He will have been flying. She will have been flying. And it will have been flying. Maybe the drone. I don't know. Okay? Something. All right. Now, for a negative sentence, it's very easy. We're just adding the word not. Okay? I will not have been flying for 12 hours, actually. You know what? I will have been flying for 14 hours. Okay? So, for the negative, you're just adding will not have been flying. That's easy. And again, it's the same. Doesn't matter what the subject is. Okay? The pilot will have been flying. It could be anything. Next, to form a question, basically we're going to start with the will and then the subject and then the rest of it. For example, will I really have been flying for 12 hours? I'm asking myself. Or will you have been flying? Will we have been flying? Will they have been flying? And again, it's part of an entire context, right? Will he have been flying? Will she have been flying for that long? Okay? And so on. And very often, the most common question word that we might see before this will is this one. How long will, okay, because now it's not capitalized. How long will you have been flying by the time you reach Tokyo? 14 hours? Wow. Okay? So this is basically how we form this tense. Now let's look at how we use contractions with this tense and also how we pronounce them. So we use contractions usually in informal conversation and in informal writing, like in an email, an informal email. But if it's formal business writing or if it's academic writing, then we do not use contractions. So let's look at some examples. Let's take a positive sentence first. Let's say, by next year, I will have been playing the piano for 10 years. Okay? So we can shorten a part of this. Instead of saying I will, we can say I'll have been playing. You say it? You'll have been playing. We'll have been playing. They'll have been playing. He'll have been playing. She'll have been playing. And the last one, it'll have been playing. Now, you may or may not feel comfortable saying the last one. You can always say it separately, no problem. Okay? Next, what if it's negative? Next year, I will not have been playing the piano for 10 years. I will actually have been playing the piano for 15 years. Okay? So, now, how do we shorten or contract I will not? It's a little unusual. We just say I won't. Say it after me. I won't. I won't have been playing. You won't have been playing. We won't have been playing. They won't have been playing. He won't have been playing. She won't have been playing. And it won't have been playing. Okay? The reason we're repeating that phrase again and again is for many reasons. One is to practice your pronunciation. Second is to practice the grammar. And just keep looking at it and saying it. And that will help you to remember how this tense works. Now let's look at some of the spelling changes we have to make to the base form of the verb when we add ing. So, for most verbs, all you have to do is add ing. For example, speak becomes speaking. All we did was add ing. Listen, listening. Okay? That's what you do for the majority of verbs, but there are always some exceptions. Here are a few. For verbs ending in E, then we have to drop the E, and of course, in all cases, we're adding ing. So, let's take this word, operate. So it ends with an E. So what do? We cancel or drop that E, and we add ing. So operate becomes operating. Arrange becomes arranging. Okay? That's one change. Here's another situation. For verbs ending in IE, there we have to drop the IE, add Y, and then of course add ing. Let's look at an example. Tie, so we're going to cancel this IE, add a Y, and then ing. So tie becomes tying, lie becomes lying. Okay? Good. And here's another situation. Very often, but not always, for verbs ending in CVC, we have to double the last letter. What is CVC? If you've been watching our videos and the different tenses, you will know by now that this is consonant, vowel, consonant. A vowel in English is A, E, I, O, or U, and the consonants are all the other letters. So, if you look at a verb, right? Let's take this verb, and to make it easier, look at it from the end, okay? So, the last letter is a consonant, the P. The next letter is an O, so it's a vowel. The next letter is an H, so it's a consonant. So we have this pattern, right? C, V, C. So then what we do is we usually double the last letter. For example, to shop becomes shopping. Run becomes running. Now, this doesn't apply in all verbs that end like this, but it does apply to lots of them. So remember some of these spelling changes when you're using this tense. Now, let's practice this tense together. So, I've written some positive sentences, some negative ones, and one question. Let's try them together. Number 1. By the time we reach Niagara Falls, we blank drive for 8 hours. So how can you change that into the future perfect continuous tense? By the time we reach Niagara Falls, we will have been driving for 8 hours. We will have been driving for 8 hours. Okay? Good. Number 2. When he retires next year, he blank teach for 25 years. Another positive sentence, affirmative sentence. What will it be? When he retires next year, he will have been teaching, right? Okay, here we just added ing. Here with the verb drive, what did we do? We canceled the E and added the ing. Okay, so pay attention to those spelling changes as well. Number 3, next month, you blank write this book for 2 years. Then we have a negative sentence. You blank not research any other subject. So let's take it step by step. Next month, you blank write this book for 2 years. What would we say? You will have been writing. Okay? Again, we're canceling the E and adding ing. Okay? You could say you will have been writing, or you could say you'll, right? Instead of you will, you could have contracted it and said you'll have been writing. Okay, that would work too. You will have been writing this book for 2 years. Now we want the negative. You blank not research any other subject. So let's use the contraction for the negative here. What would it be? You won't have been researching any other subject. So let's read this sentence again. Next month, you will have been writing this book for 2 years. You won't have been researching any other subject. Okay? Very good. Let's do number 4. Next week, she blank not eat meat for 1 year. How do we change that? Make it negative, remember? She will not have been eating, okay, meat for 1 year. Good for you if you got all that. Next week, she will not have been eating meat for 1 year. Okay, great. Number 5. By 1 p.m., first we're just going to read a sentence, okay? Then we're going to try to make a question from it. By 1 p.m., the athletes will have been running for 4 hours. Will have been running is the tense that we're talking about, our future perfect continuous, okay? How do we make that into a question? How long, let's start with how long will they, meaning the athletes, have been running? Okay? So, let's read it again. By 1 p.m., the athletes will have been running for 4 hours. So if we want to ask a question, how long will they have been running? Okay? Good for you. You did a great job. This is a challenging tense and you got it. Now let's look at some common mistakes that are made with this tense and let's correct them together. So the first one is that, as I mentioned, we cannot use stative verbs with the continuous tenses or with this tense, but sometimes people forget that and they might say something like this. By next year, we will have been knowing their family for 30 years. So, why is that a mistake? Because know is a stative verb, which you should not and cannot use in that continuous form. So, this sentence would have to be what? By next year, we will have known their family for 30 years. We will have known, okay? And not we will have been knowing. So here we needed the future perfect by itself. Okay. Sometimes there's a mistake because we have to use this tense in a context, right? We have to use the context of at some time in the future or before some action in the future. But sometimes people forget to mention that, and then the tense doesn't make sense by itself. The only time it makes sense by itself is if someone is asked a question and then all you are doing is answering, okay? So if you were answering and you said, I will have been studying here for 3 years, because somebody asks you, how long will you have been studying here by the time you graduate? Then it would be okay to say, I will have been studying here for 3 years. But if somebody has not asked you a question and you're not giving an answer, and by itself you just say, with no time given, I will have been studying here for 3 years. It doesn't mean anything. It sort of doesn't make sense. So you want to give it some context. So maybe you'll say by next summer, by November, by the end of this year, I will have been studying here for 3 years. Then it would be okay. So let's add something here and we'll say by November. Okay? By November, I will have been studying here for 3 years. So we need that context of time. We also could have context in terms of an action that will happen in the future, right? So let's look at this sentence. We will have been traveling for 12 hours. Again, no context unless someone asked you a question, which in this case they didn't. So let's give it some context of another action. So we could say, by the time we reach Miami or Dallas or New York or anywhere, we will have been traveling for 12 hours. Okay? Now it has the reference point of another action. And now it's fine. It's absolutely fine. And just in case you're wondering, the word traveling can be spelled in 2 ways. This is more the North American or American spelling, and the British spelling usually has a double L. Okay? So let's go to the next one, which is in fact spelling. Spelling mistakes are common, so be careful. Let's look here and see if you can find the spelling mistakes. This year, they will have been guiding tours for 10 years. Can you find one spelling mistake there? This year, they will have been guiding. So the mistake is here. Why? Because this verb is guide, right? By itself. But when we add ing, what do we need to do? Cancel that E. So it would be guiding tours for 10 years. Let's look at another sentence. Next month, he won't have been smoking for 20 years. This sentence has 2 mistakes. Can you find them? 2 spelling mistakes. Next month, he won't have been smoking for 20 years. So, one mistake is here. This apostrophe is missing. Now it's correct. and have been smoking. Again, smoke is a verb which ends with E, so we need to cancel that E to write smoking. Okay, so these are some of the common mistakes. Be careful of them, of the stative verbs, the spelling, and make sure you give your sentences some kind of context of time and or of another action. So, to review, let's look at 3 last examples of this future perfect continuous tense. The first one is a positive example. When Sue finishes university, she will have been living abroad for 6 years. Right? Here's our tense. Will have been living. Okay? Very nice. Let's look at a negative example. By next week, Sam won't have been working for a year. Where's the tense? Sam won't have been working. All right? And the last one, when he retires, how long will Jack have been managing this department? Where's the tense? Here. Will have been managing. All right? So this is basically what you need to understand for this tense, right? When to use it, how to use it, using the positive sentence, the negative sentence, the question. And this is an advanced tense. So it will be very helpful. It's great that you've learned it. And as you read and as you listen to the news, you'll start to now hear this tense being used, okay? And you'll feel really good because you understand exactly what they're trying to say, all right? So give yourself a lot of credit for having come this far, for reaching this high level in terms of your English tenses and in terms of your English, all right? Now, after this, you can, whenever you're ready, you can go on to watch the next class in our series. And last of all, if you'd like to do a little more practice on this particular tense, then just go to engVid and you can do a quiz on this. All right? Congratulations again and all the very best with your English.